Hey there! Before I get started, I just want to make something crystal clear here. Just because I have Rant in the title of this video does not mean I hate this movie. I don't hate Star Wars The Force Awakens. I can't possibly hate this film because it hasn't even come out yet. All I've seen for it are a couple trailers, so I can't possibly hate the movie. That's not fair to the film, and I wouldn't do that. So I don't hate the movie. I don't hate the idea of a new Star Wars film. I don't hate Star Wars The Force Awakens fans. I don't hate the trailers. This rant is it just says mini rants. That's the title of these series of videos. It's a way for me to rant and talk about on a certain topic. It's basically a way for me to debate and give my thoughts on a certain topic. And, a little bit of rants here and there. It's not a rant on The Force Awakens itself. That's not what it is. The main reason why I did this is I want to share some of my thoughts on the trailers and the teaser, and I also want to share my thoughts on a mentality that is becoming pretty popular lately, which I do not agree with. And so that's the main reason why I made this video. So now that that's out of the way, let's get started. And let's talk about the trailers. Start with the teaser trailer. I saw it a couple times when it first came out, and I just thought it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. It didn't blow my mind. It didn't make me cream myself. I was okay. I thought it was okay. It was decent. There were things about it I did like. I liked John Williams' score, of course. I mean, that's always great. I mean, excuse me. I mean, John Williams' score is always a great thing to hear. And there's never not any time when you don't hear the Star Wars music where you're like, that's not awesome. It is awesome. It always is. But I can just listen to the score. I don't have to watch the teaser trailer if I want to get the feeling that I get when I'm listening to the score. I like the size and scope of it. I like the little bits of practical you saw. It wasn't a lot, so that was kind of. But I would let it go because it was a teaser trailer, and they're only showing me a little bit. It's a teaser trailer. It's just a bunch of clips put together just to give the fans of Star Wars just something to look at, to get excited for. That's it. That's all the teaser trailer was. But there were some shots I really did like. I really liked the shot of the Star Destroyer in ruins in the desert. That was a great looking shot. And so it was nice to see Han and Chewie again. So yeah, it was a decent teaser trailer. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was terrible either. It was there. Then you have the Monday night the trailer that came out on Monday Night Football, and I saw that 3 times, and each time I felt the exact same way about it, and that was just indifferent. I was just looking, okay, all right, that's all right. I felt the same way about the new trailer as I did about the teaser trailer, and that was very disappointing to me because I was expecting the new trailer to blow away the teaser trailer, and that's not really what happened. I came away from this new trailer feeling a bit empty, and I honestly felt the movie looked generic. And I don't think that's the movie's fault. I am not saying the movie is generic. I'm saying that it looked generic because of the trailer and because of the way that the trailer was edited. This trailer looked like any other trailer for any other sci-fi blockbuster movie in the past 5 years. That's a problem. That's why I wish that the trailer had a better editor. It stood out more because it didn't to me. It looked like any other trailer I'd already seen for any other movie, any other big blockbuster film. What is up with movie trailers nowadays looking almost exactly the same as any other movie trailer? The edits are the same. It's to the point where it's just laziness. There's no originality here. There's no, oh, let's actually do some clever edits. It's the same shit, the same fade in, fade out, same style, same pacing, almost every single time. And it doesn't make you want to see the film very well because you see the same trailer over and over and over again. It makes any trailer that you show with the same style look like the other trailer. It makes them all look generic. And that's why I wish that you had YouTubers like Chief Broaded Rules or other YouTubers who do great fan edits. I wish they had the job to edit the trailer for The Force Awakens, because I really do feel that they would have done a much better job editing the trailer and not making it look like just a bunch of random clips that are jumbled together with the same style of editing that almost every other trailer uses. So that being said, I mean, the film looked generic to me because of the way it's edited, but I also was not impressed with a lot of different things about the trailer. The big thing was I was really let down by the trailer because I saw almost pretty much 95% CGI when it came to the effects. And that upset me because I remember reading up everything and I was excited because I remember hearing J.J. Abrams talking about how he's going to bring practical effects back to the film, and it's going to be full of practical effects, and they're going to do practical effects as much as they can. And then the teaser trailer doesn't have that much. At least they shot on location in the desert. I'll give it that. You have the robot, which is a practical effect. Okay, cool. The one looks like a soccer ball. All right. But then I see the new trailer, and the Millennium Falcon looks like it's in CGI. So does all the X-Wing, the sequences with the X-Wings. It also looks like the ruined CGI, the explosions are CGI, just a ton of CGI. There's the laser blaster CGI. There's one sequence where it looked like a practical model, which looked like an actual set, which is good. When the new female character, she climbs down into, I think might be the ruins of a Star Destroyer. That looked practical. At least it looked like they were wearing actual costumes. So I'll give it that. That was practical as well. So maybe it's not 95% CGI, but about 90%. Or maybe 85%. But it's a very close percentage, at least from just the trailer alone, because majority of almost everything in terms of special effect, sort of visual effects wise, was CGI. And I understand why you do that for something like a lightsaber or laser blasts, which I know I talked about. I said they were CGI, but that's fine. Laser blast is fine. Explosions, I would like you just to blow up a model. Can you do that? I mean, that's what the original films did. They blew up actual models with real actual explosions. That's how they blew up the Death Star. And then I actually would have liked to seen actual miniature models for the spaceships. If you really wanted to bring back the feel of the original trilogy, you would have done that. Yeah, you make the X-Wing, you make the Millennium Falcon a whole set. Cool, all right, that's awesome. But you also make the spaceships practical as well, because if you have a practical ship, you know, from the inside and the outside, and then you have a CGI Millennium Falcon, that's a disconnect that doesn't really work that well for me. But it didn't look terrible. It wasn't bad CGI. But that's the thing. It was a lot of CGI, and that was disappointing to me because of everything I heard about the film, and I saw the whatever Comic-Con behind the scenes video where there's all this practical effects, and to see a trailer where almost the majority of almost every visual effect is CGI was disappointing to me. Maybe the final film itself will have much more practical effects, and I hope it does, but I'm just going off of what I saw in the trailer. So that was one thing. I don't like Kylo Ren, at least from what I have seen so far. He looks like a Vader knockoff. He looks like one of those knockoff toys that couldn't get the rights to Star Wars characters, so they just came up with their own character who kind of looks like Vader. And they sold it in some dollar store somewhere. That's what it looks like. He looks like a Vader knockoff to me. He's dressed in black. He's got a deep, breathy voice with a synthesizer. It's very similar. It's too similar for my tastes. At least Darth Maul didn't look anything like Darth Vader. You could not say that those two were one and the same. Kylo Ren just looks like Vader's baby brother, or and that's the thing. I guess he's like some disciple of Vader, and he worships Vader, and I get it. But at the same time, I don't really want to see another Vader. So, and I just wasn't impressed with whatever I saw in the trailer. Hopefully he'll be much better in the movie, and I really do hope he is. But from what I saw in the trailer, I don't see what all the fuss is about. I see a pretty shitty looking Vader knockoff for me personally. I don't like the costume design. I think it looks really generic, and the voice just sounded awful to me. I hope they really fix that because the dubbing sounded pretty bad, pretty one note and pretty bad. That's just me personally. People can love it. People will think it sounds great, looks great. That's fine. It's just my thoughts on it. I thought it looked pretty bad in terms of Kylo Ren. Um, and then Luke's barely even in the trailer. Is he even in the movie? Is he Kylo Ren? Because Kylo Ren has a robot hand. I hope not. If that's the case, the movie can kiss my ass. If they make Luke the villain. I'm not making a guarantee, but I would not be surprised if Luke is barely in the movie. Like, he's only in the movie for a little bit, shows up near the end, and gets his ass kicked in like 2 seconds, like Tron did in Tron Legacy. Another Disney film, another Disney sequel. I hope that doesn't happen, but I would not be surprised if that's the case. Considering it's Disney and it's a Disney sequel. I mean, they did that to Tron. They did all this build up, and Tron comes back. It's my name is Tron, and I fight for the users. And then he gets his ass kicked in 5 seconds and dies. Nice one, Disney. Thank you. So yeah, not impressed with Kylo Ren. I'm worried about these newcomers playing the new leads, being in the same film on the screen at the same time as Harrison Ford and Chewbacca, and Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew. So as Han Solo, Chewbacca, Leia, and Luke. I'm worried about these newcomers holding their own weight, being in a film with these Star Wars heavyweights. And that's one of the things that I think is a double-edged sword having the original cast in this film, because it's cool to see them again, but at the same time it puts the new cast members at a serious disadvantage and makes them have to really overcome some tall odds in order to stand out from the original cast. So, and then there's a problem where, okay, you don't want too much of the original cast, so it overshadows the new cast, but you also don't want too much of the new cast that overshadows the original cast. So it's just a problem that I think would have been better off being avoided entirely. And as much as I like seeing Han Solo and Luke and Leia and Chewbacca again, I would have been perfectly fine if they weren't in the film, because then it enables the filmmakers and enables the story to be able to just be as flexible as it possibly can and give as much screen time as it needs to develop these new characters and not devote all of this other time to characters that we already know. So it's going to be interesting to see the old cast with the new, but at the same time it poses a problem. And I don't know about this new cast. From what I saw from the clips and stuff, they didn't really impress me. It definitely looks like they're characters that might get blown off the screen by Han Solo. And that's a problem. And that's why I think they would have been better off if Han Solo and these other original cast members, original characters, were not in the film, because then it enables it for the new characters to be able to do the best that they possibly can and not have as much weight on them or as much they don't really have competition, and enables the story to be able to give them more time to develop their characters. And that's something I'm worried about, is that there's not going to be a lot of character development because we need to keep following up on what's going on with Luke and Han and Leia and all of that. But ideally I just wish they made sequels to the original trilogies in the 90s, before the prequels, when these actors were young enough and were capable enough to do a continuation of the series. And part of me is almost wish they just did instead of doing the prequels, just did sequels to the original trilogy. And I would have liked that a lot more as well, but I'll do that. I'll talk about that in another video. So it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet seeing the original cast in this because they're so old now and they probably won't be in the film that much. And they won't have that much to do, and that's going to really be too bad. So that's why it would have been better off if they weren't in it, because then you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about disappointing your audience by having the original characters in the film, but then not doing enough with them, because then you don't have to worry about that, because they're not in the movie. And they're not a part of the story that you're trying to tell. Now you could mention them. They could, in like history, and talk about things like that, and maybe have them do a cameo, or maybe save them to come back in like the final movie or something. But yeah, it's almost better that they weren't in the film. But, I'm curious to see. Maybe they'll make it work out. Maybe they'll make it work. Maybe they'll find the right blend and right mix, and we shall see. But that's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to get right. And another thing, I just it's the story from what I've been reading, and I know the official synopsis hasn't been released yet. But from what I've seen from the trailers, it just looks like the same thing. Looks like the same stuff I've already seen before in the original trilogy. You have TIE fighters, you have X-Wings, you have in one of the posters I saw for this movie, you have a Death Star. Is there really going to be another Death Star? I hope that's not the case because I mean I dealt with it when they had the unfinished Death Star in Return of the Jedi, but if you have another one here, that's just a bit too much. You can't come up with a new space, station, planet destroyer. You can't come up with a new one. You have to build the Star Destroyer. You have to build, well, you have to build the Star Destroyers again, and you have to build the Death Star again. This feels like a bit too much deja vu for my tastes. Looks like the film's gonna be in Tatooine again. I can't show me a new desert planet. We gotta go back to Tatooine. Um, you got TIE fighters, you got X-Wings, and you got stormtroopers again. Are they finally gonna learn how to aim? And so it's just one of those. Is this just fan service? Is this what this movie is? Just blatant fan service? Here's Han, here's Chewie, here's the Millennium Falcon, here's TIE Fighters, here's the Star Destroyer, lightsabers, Star Wars, and the Death Star is back. And it just seems like fan service in a lot of ways, and that's a good and a bad thing. It's nice to give your fans something, but if it's nothing more than just fan service, and the plot's pretty weak and kind of been there, done that, that'd be disappointing. Especially since Disney threw out the expanded universe and said we're not using any of those stories. And then when you see the trailer for this, I'm like, this looks familiar. This looks like something like Shadows of the Empire. And honestly, I like Shadows. The books by Timothy Zahn, who he ended up following the events of the original trilogy, I thought were some really good books. Heir to the Empire, and I think there was other ones, and it was a good trilogy series. I would have loved to see movies based on those books. But instead, we throw those away, and we have this new one, and we'll see how it works out. I hope it's great. I really do. I just have my doubts. The trailers just made me go, I'm not going to see this in opening night. And even if I was, I probably wouldn't be able to get a ticket because it's crazy. They sold out so fast. But but yeah, it's just one of those things where I hope it's not more of the same. And it kind of does feel like it. And I know they haven't released the official plot yet, but if it's just another the Rebels fight the Empire movie, then that's just kind of that'd be disappointing because it'd just be I've already seen this done before in the first film and in the first trilogy and in the prequel trilogy. If you do it again, we can become something other than the Empire. The Empire returned because of Kylo Ren. I get it, I understand, but could you call it something else other than the Empire, or maybe not? I don't know. If the movie's good and it's entertaining, then none of these things will be a problem anymore for me. But these are just things that I'm pointing out from my first observations from these trailers. J.J. Abrams can't stop with the damn lens flares. I saw a lot of lens flares in these trailers, not as much as Total Recall or some of the other films, You know, Total Recall he didn't do, but the director was heavily inspired by him. It was all the lens flares. J.J. Abrams is an inconsistent director. I think my favorite film he's done is Mission Impossible 3. I like Star Trek Into Darkness, but I can understand why people have a problem with it, and I haven't seen it since. I saw it the first time around, and I think if I saw it again, I'd have more problems with it than I do now, because that's what happened with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. I liked it the first time, saw it a second time, I thought it was kind of a weak film in a lot of aspects. So, this is the same director who Star Trek fans were pissed at after Star Trek Into Darkness, and critics weren't really that impressed with that film. And the same guy, and now everyone's like, oh, he's a perfect guy because he's a Star Wars nerd. It's not George Lucas. Now there are other bad filmmakers. There are other bad storytellers. There are other directors out there that can also be as bad as George Lucas. I don't think J.J. Abrams will be, but I don't think he's an automatic shoo-in for delivering a great film either. There's a lot of pressure on J.J. Abrams right now, and we'll see how well he holds up, because there was a decent amount of pressure with Star Trek, but not near as much as Star Wars, because the last Star Trek film was Star Trek Nemesis, and that really wasn't as poorly received as the prequels. Now, it wasn't really loved by a lot of Star Trek fans, but it wasn't entirely hated by all Star Trek fans either. So, yeah. So, J.J. Abrams has a lot of pressure right now to deliver a great film, and that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because Star Wars fans, in order to accept it as better than the prequels, it's got to be great, or at least good. It can't just be okay, because then I don't think that would be enough of an improvement. So, yeah. So at least it wouldn't be for me. If it's just an okay movie, it's just mediocre, that wouldn't be enough of improvement to me over the prequels, because that's how I felt about Episode 3. I thought Episode 3 was just mediocre. It had some good things, and it had some bad things. And of course, Vader going, no! That was really bad. But it did have some good things as well. It was definitely improvement over the first 2 episodes of the prequels, of the prequel trilogy. But it was just okay to me. And if the new one's just okay, just like part 3, like Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that's not good enough. But we'll see. We shall see. And, I also hate the filters. I hate the fucking filters in this. I'm sick and tired of movies using filters. Start making it look like a natural film again. Stop showing me these filters. Red and orange and blue, and filter with red, and filter with gray, filter with beige. Fuck this shit. Orange and blue, fuck you. I don't want to see it anymore. My eyes aren't fooled by this trick anymore, and I'm sick of it. And yeah, but there were some things about the trailers I liked, and I liked the size and the scope. Some of the visuals definitely looked impressive, and but none of the action in any of the trailers looked really great. So I think they really needed to show me a little bit more of that, because all I really saw was some X-wings shooting at some TIE fighters, and the Millennium Falcon get away from some TIE fighters, some explosions, a little bit of lightsabers lighting up, and that's it. You didn't see any lightsaber fights, you didn't see anything. And I understand they're trying to save things and not show you too much, but you gotta give me something. And this was just barely anything. It was all it was okay, there's some new clips of Star Wars. But it wasn't a lot that I was like, oh man, it looks odd. It was nothing like the Mad Max 3 Road trailer, which I was like, holy shit, practical special effects, practical stunts. That car just fucking exploded. Holy, I'm in. Fury Road. It didn't do that for me. And I think they really should have done more of that for the new Star Wars trailer. It felt like another extension of the teaser trailer. And you should be better than that, above and beyond that. It felt a bit minimalist, a bit too subtle for my tastes. But that's just me. I mean, I just need a little bit more to get me excited, because it just felt it was pretty just lackadaisical and it's kind of lazy in a way, and it's the new Star Wars. I did like the way the title showed up though at the end of the trailer though. I like that. But yeah, we shall see. It's a big we shall see for me, and I'm not going to see it in opening weekend because I don't want to deal with that craziness. Speaking of craziness, now we get to the main reason why I did this video, and it's because I wanted to do a quick rant, as quick as I can, on this mentality that I've been seeing that's being pretty popular lately. And this mentality is that, okay, if you are one of those people who don't like the Star Wars prequels, who were not fans of the Star Wars prequels, and you have your doubts about the new film because of that, well, you shouldn't. You should let that go and embrace the new film and be excited and get your expectations up and forget about the prequels as if they never existed, as if they're just all a bad dream, because there's a new Star Wars film coming out, George Lucas isn't involved, and you should just embrace the new one and be excited for it. Let it go. Okay, if you feel that way, no problem with that. To each their own. I mean, that's a good thing. When people have different opinions, that's a great thing because that confirms that we still live in a world that's a very interesting place to be a part of. But I do have a problem with the idea that if you are one of those people, that's a bad thing. Because I think that's bullshit. It's not a bad thing. It's not wrong to have your doubts about the new Star Wars film because of what happened before. You were burned. We were all burned badly by the prequels. Disappointed beyond belief. I mean, the prequels are some of the most disappointing films I've seen in recent memory. And to just expect some of us to just forget about it like it never happened, like put a neuralizer right in our face and just that's it. None of this ever happened, and then just jump in head first into the new film just because it's a new Star Wars film. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's not something that that I can't even wrap my brain around why I would do that. But if there are people who do, and that's fine. If you want to forget about the prequels like they never existed and jump into the hype and get into the excitement of the release of the new Star Wars, and go ahead and do that. But what I don't like is when people get up on their soapbox, like Jeremy Johns, who did a whole Facebook post and might have done a video about it, but I'm not subscribed to the guy, so I don't care. But I only saw the Facebook post because somebody shared it with me on Facebook. And he did a whole Facebook post where he pretty much just said, if you're one of those people who don't want to see the new Star Wars because you didn't like the prequels, then you are depriving yourself of a lot of joy. And you should just let your guard down, throw the gauntlet down, and just embrace the new Star Wars. And because it's going to be a great experience, and you shouldn't miss out on it because of fear and all of that. I get it. I get his point. I understand. But he shouldn't be telling me what I should and should not be doing either with my time or my money. Second, I agree with him when it comes to don't be afraid of seeing the new film because of what happened with the prequels. I'm not saying completely avoid the film entirely. No. If you didn't like the prequels and you're completely avoiding the film entirely because you're afraid, I don't disagree with that, but you can do that too because it's your life and it's your choice and it's your money and it's your time. So if you want to do that, fine. But I'm not personally afraid of the new film. I'm not cowering in fear about the new film because of the prequels. I just have my doubts. And that's the thing. It's become a popular mentality that you can't even have that. You should just let everything go. The recent honest trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens, which was a really terrible honest teaser, all it was an excuse to deliver stale prequel jokes and basically, once again, shoehorn this popular mentality. The trailer even ended with "Let the prequels go." No, I'm not letting them go. Because you know why? Because if you forget your past, if you forget your history, you are doomed to repeat it. And by letting them go entirely, as if they never happened, and just jumping and just deciding to just embrace this new film and say that it's automatically going to be better than the prequels, even though you haven't even seen the film yet, all you've seen is trailers, I don't think that's a good idea because you're forgetting about your past. And if you forget about your past and you let your past go, then you're not going to learn from it and you're not going to move forward. In the same way, you are going to move forward, but what I'm saying is it's kind of hard to wrap my brain around it. But you let your past go, then you're letting your history go, and you're trying to just remove it entirely like it never happened, then you're increasing the chances that the same bad thing from your past will happen again because you're just acting like it never happened in the first place. I don't agree with that idea. I don't agree with that mentality. Let the prequels go just because a new Star Wars film is coming out. Why should I do that? Why should I just let that go? I was burned really badly. It was disappointing. They sucked. And I should just let them go and think that it just the new film's going to be automatically better because I just decided not to even fathom the possibility that the new film could be as mediocre as the third part, as Revenge of the Sith, or God forbid, as bad as the first two films of the prequel trilogy. It's not a far out of the way possibility. This is I mean, at least to me, it isn't. So, and I'd rather put my expectations low than put them through the solar system or out of our own galaxy, like some people have been doing. If you want to do that, that's fine. But when you see polls where Star Wars fans, about 63% of Star Wars fans, are saying that the new Star Wars film is going to be the best film yet in the entire series, the hype's getting a bit out of hand. There are people already proclaiming this as a great movie before it's even came out. Yeah, claiming that it's already better than the prequels, and it hasn't even come out yet. That's the thing. You can't really you can't really look at the trailers and say, yep, it's automatically better. Because I hate to break it to you, but the prequel trailers were pretty good too. I remember the trailers for some of the Star Wars prequels. I remember they were pretty good, and we were all like excited for it. And then you know what happened afterward. But yeah, I do agree with some of the concepts of Jeremy Johns or some of the people are saying about letting things go, but not entirely. That's the thing. That's my problem. I don't like the mentality of just not really, of just basically. It's a really vague mentality. It's not specific enough. It's let the prequels go and just get into the excitement and go crazy for the new Star Wars because you only have one chance. And I'm like, I have multiple chances. There's another Star Wars film in this trilogy coming out after this one. There's another one after that. Then there's more Star Wars spin-offs. Pretty soon we'll get to the point where we don't want to deal with any more Star Wars because Disney's going to beat this franchise into the ground and they're going to keep on beating it until it stops spewing cash. I'm really, Disney is going to milk this for all it's worth. And that's a good and a bad thing. We get more Star Wars films, but then the quality might start to really go down after a while. But, we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, that's just my thing. I don't agree with the mentality of just let it go. It never happened. Act like it never existed. No, it did, and it sucked. And we should not forget about it. But we should also not be afraid of seeing the new film. Or when we see the new film, we shouldn't. I don't think you should really be comparing the new film to the prequels unless it's like really bad, and then you can compare it that way. But there's a way you can compare it in a way. Is it better than the prequels or whatever? All right, you can do that if you want to. But I will probably just try to look at it as a film on its own merits. And in a way, I will do the best I can to let the prequels go when I see the new film, whenever I do see it. But I'm not letting them go entirely. I'm not forgetting about them. I'm not acting like they didn't exist. I'm not letting go of my doubts for the new film that is associated with how bad the prequels were, because I'm only human. And that's honestly just how I operate. It's how I do things. And I'm tired of being let down. I don't want to be let down again. I don't have my expectations high for any movie nowadays. Even movies I wanted to see, like It Follows. I really liked the trailer, really curious about the movie, but I did not automatically set myself up for watching a great film. I went into it just with low expectations and hoping that it lived up to being at least a good movie. And it was a great film to me. So it turned out great for me. Last time I put my expectations too high, I saw goddamn Zilla and it goddamn sucked. It was a goddamn disappointment. So that's why I don't want to put myself through that anymore. I don't want to put myself through that pain. I don't want to put myself up that high and then fall so low. I don't want to do that. It's not worth the reward. It's a high risk, but it's not a high reward. Because if I put my expectations really high and I expect the movie's going to be great and it's great, that's not really that high of a reward. It's a reward that you expected. That's what you wanted. So it's not really much of a reward. But if you put your expectations really high and it sucks, that's a problem, because then it's high risk and you get no reward. The reward you get is this is a terrible movie, and then you put all of this emotion and all of this thoughts and you put a lot of time into and you were excited for this, and then it was just terrible. Is it worth it? Is it worth that emotional roller coaster ride? To me, it isn't. It really isn't worth that. No movie is worth that. And by setting your expectations up out of our own galaxy for Star Wars The Force Awakens, in my opinion, you're setting yourself up for potential disappointment. You're setting yourself up for a higher percentage of the film failing to live up to your expectations. And that's the thing. It's not, to me, it's not a good idea to have expectations that high for anything. And but if you have those expectations and you want to be super, super excited and it's your most anticipated film of the year, fine. That's cool. That's awesome. But I'm just one of those people who I just do not put my expectations very high anymore. I don't. I mean, look what happened with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. People had their expectations like way high, like out of the atmosphere, and like out of our galaxy into the farthest reaches of the universe, and it did not live up to those expectations. And how could it? I mean, it could not possibly live up to those expectations. It was an Indiana Jones film that came out almost 2 decades after the last one. I happen to be one of the few people who actually enjoyed the film and still do, but yeah, that was a huge backlash it got from fans, and yeah, a lot of it was because their expectations were too high. But and a lot of it just people just didn't like it, and that's cool. It's fine. There's no film that's everybody's cup of tea, so to speak. But yeah, I'm rambling now, and yeah, that's my thoughts on Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Trailers I thought were all right. There's things about them I liked, but they didn't do enough to sell me on the film, for me personally. So I'm gonna wait till after it's released, hear some reviews from some people, some of my friends, and then wait till the hype dies down and see it on my own. Um, and then, yeah, the mentality of let the prequels go. That never happened. Embrace a new film. Jump on the hype train. It's because there's a new Star Wars film. I don't jump on hype trains. I get off. I'm not getting on that train. If you want to ride that train all the way to the end of the line, be my guest. That's great. That's cool. I have no problem with that, but I'm not doing that. And I just think this film is overhyped already. And I'm not saying it's overrated. It's just overhyped. and that's to be expected because it's a new Star Wars film. It's a very popular franchise, but I don't think there should be a problem with people who have their doubts, who want to wait and see, and that's the thing. People who are trying to say that they shouldn't have their doubts and they shouldn't have it, and they should just embrace the new Star Wars film just because. I don't like that mentality, and it quite frankly kind of pisses me off because pretty much what that mentality is saying is that, hey, you guy who doesn't want to see the new film because of how bad the prequels were and because of some other reasons, well, screw you. You shouldn't feel that way. You should feel the way that other people feel and the way that I feel because just because. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So no, I'm gonna feel the way I want to feel about it, and that's it. And just like you feel the way that you want to feel about it, and I have no problem with that. So why some people have a problem with people like me who have their doubts because of what happened before and expect us to just let it go and just get excited for the new film just because the new film's coming out, I will never understand and I won't get, and I will never be able to wrap my head around that. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's not really a quick one, but there's a lot of stuff I had to talk about. But anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you guys later. See ya.